are a leading online marketing and communications platform for small business. So we help dentists, veterinarians, chiropractors, auto shops with their online marketing efforts and also with their online reputation. My team is really focused and chartered on making our users more productive and more efficient. And there's really no other place that is more important than sales to do so. And I'm going to talk about one of the teams that we've put a lot of focus on, which is our LDR team, lead development reps. And we're going to talk about just good old school telephones, making calls, and how we've used data to make these folks more efficient. So the lead development reps, as you can imagine, they're at the top of the funnel, right? They're filling that thing with qualified leads and sending demos. And we wanted to make sure that they're very efficient. So we looked at various tools that we could use to gather more data and make these folks more productive. We settled with the inside sales tool, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how we're using that data. So to start off, we have been able to see about a 25% increase in call volume just from people being more efficient. You know, we had these folks, they would log into Salesforce, they'd pull up their lead list, and they'd put their headset on and literally, punch in a number, go through the lead, disposition it, hang up, go to the next one. So just from a sheer volume, we've seen a big increase. Then what we started looking at is how can we make these folks even more efficient by looking at the data that we get from the disposition of these calls. So did I actually reach somebody? Did I leave a voicemail? Did I reach the decision maker? What happened in that call? So what we've been able to do is we've seen about almost a 10% increase in contact rates and close to 15% increase in decision maker contacts. So when we call a small business, did we reach that auto shop owner, the sole proprietor, the person that's really going to make a decision on whether or not they move forward with our solution? How did we do that? Well, looking at the data that we were getting from this tool, we can see certain things. For example, historically, when does it make the most sense to call a dentist? Do you call a dentist on the East Coast between between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. Pacific time, or do you call in later on in the afternoon? When do you target an auto shop owner in New York or in California? When's the best time to reach those people? So leveraging the data, we've been able to really increase the efficiency of that team. We've been able to look at even some trivial things like you might think when people have team meetings. We found that there were several teams that they were having team meetings at a time when they really should have been on the phone. So using the data, looking at some predictive analysis behind that information has really helped us make these folks way more efficient. Like I said, 10% increase in contact rates and being able to get to the decision maker, which makes it a lot easier to set a demo and then enable that sales team to take it across the finish line and close it out. So I think that the moral of the story here is Demandforce is not a huge company, but we've been able to leverage data to really drive sales and drive that prospecting team to be super efficient. And even though it's old school telephones, there is some science behind it to make it really effective. And Rob Christensen from Inside Sales is going to talk to you guys a little bit about that science behind it.
All right, well, thanks, Andre. So at Inside Sales, we believe that science, particularly big data, predictive analytics, and machine learning can be applied to improve human performance. And I'm going to talk about a couple points that Andre mentioned in his talk. The first point I'm going to talk about is how was Andre's team able to quickly see results using a system, an inside sales system, driven through big data. And the second point we'll talk about is how does his team go from team optimization to individual performance improvement. Along the way, I'm going to talk about a couple things that we think are important as you guys think about your big data solutions. The first is the data itself. To get results from big data, you've got to know for the interactions that you store in your big data set, what are the outcomes, both successful and failed outcomes. When we talk about big data, we're talking about learning, and in particular machine learning. And so to learn, you've got to know what activities are leading to what results. We go through and we build, predict, machine learning models and generalized models that we tuned Andre's system with, so that when his team started making those calls and doing those different sales interactions, it was able to go through and prioritize the work, organize, as Andre said, when to call, certain contacts, and really help his team achieve a peak performance from the generalized model right off the bat. Another point, though, to consider, though, is continuous learning. As his team continues to use the system, we keep track of all those activities. When were calls made? What were the outcomes? Calls to different parts of the country, to different types of contacts and leads. And so that system is capturing those interactions, and it's continually training every day based on the activities of his team. And over time, the training models that Andre's team is using are becoming more and more influenced by the activities of his team, until ultimately the training models that his team use are going to be highly customized to how his team, his business operates. Another thing that I think is important to remember is the importance of immediacy in your big data solution, and in particular your predictive analytics. It's so critical that your predictive, your machine learning models are updated daily. If you're building, training models, and you're thinking about your big, predictive analytics system, and it requires that you kick out a report and you have to interpret that report, it's kind of too late already. You really need to have a system that is controlling and kind of helping execute the behavior of your particular team, so that they don't even have to know that that's going on in the background. Another important part, as far as that continued learning that takes place every day, is to think about both internal and external data points. So far, we've kind of referred to and implied that there are internal activities that Andre's team performs that are captured and rolled into these training models. But there are also external data sets. Some of the things that we use that are particularly valuable are, in some cases, market events, VC funding events, stock market, and even weather, interestingly. We know that people answer the phone more at a higher rate when it's raining or snowing outside, and so that's an interesting thing to include into your training models. But not only is it in your training models, but it also has to be in the tool that you're using on a day-by-day, hour-by-hour basis. So one of the things that Andre's team gets a benefit from is that the system is going through hour by hour and making adjustments to the prioritization and the contacts and the recommendations that his team is using. The last point that I want to just cover off on is, we've talked kind of at a team level of how predictive analytics might be helping a team like Andre's, but how do we help an individual sales perform? We might match that perfect contact with the perfect sales rep at the right time, but how do we help that sales rep be successful? Just some thoughts on the future and where we're going. I mentioned science a few times, and I really am talking about science and machine learning. Some of the things that we use in our system, just from a science standpoint, are things like deep learning, shared vector regression, reinforcement learning. And what are we doing with those types of scientific approaches? We're doing things like building acoustic and language models. We're developing, recommended sales interaction chains, and we're looking at individual sales quota attainment predictions. Now the sales reps, they don't even see that type of thing. They have a tool that's helping them do their work, that's organizing their day, organizing their communications in a way that they are optimized for efficiency and revenue. And we think that that's the future of sales. Just like an Olympic athlete uses science to help them achieve peak performance, we think that companies will be using science to help them achieve peak business performance. Thank you very much.